welcome to this week's special episode of the Need to Heat podcast with Jake Lynch.
And Jonathan Mungle.
This week's episode is called The Encapsulation of My First Semester of Education. And it's another special episode with Jonathan replacing Fernando for his brief hiatus. I think we said last episode was going to be Jonathan's last episode as a special guest, but obviously things change and we're staying fluid. But hopefully soon Fernando will be back with us. Jonathan will tell you a little bit about what we're planning on doing with this episode.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a treat today because I actually get to interview Jake about his first semester in college. For those of you guys that do not know, Jake is in his freshman year at UF. So, I think Jake just used a great word. He used the word fluid and how we stay fluid with our plans. And what a year to kind of start college. And I'm really intrigued to know how it went and see kind of some of the struggles and some of the high points that you've had through it. So I'm just going to ask Jake a few questions in this little different of a podcast episode. I know we've had a few untraditional episodes, but I think these untraditional episodes are so far my favorite. So yeah, when you went into, I guess let me start with this original question. When you applied, what was kind of your expectation? Because I feel that feels almost like years ago when you applied.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it definitely does. For me, the the application process was probably a little bit simpler than it was for other people in terms of probably just the sheer amount. Other people that I know were applying to in the double digits of schools, and I really only applied to two. I only applied to FSU and UF, really trying to take advantage of the in-state tuition. And I grew up an FSU fan. Now I'm a Gator. Things have been hard in that respect, but getting a little bit easier now that I'm a part of this community. I really expected things to be fine no matter where I went. When it comes to like what I was expecting out of my application, obviously it was stressful, but it means a lot to be able to come into that experience when you know you've done all you can, you've tried your best, and it's really just up to what your best can get you from then on in. And obviously I was lucky enough to get into the University of Florida, and that was a very big weight lifted off of my shoulders.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely seems so. So, what was kind of like the first thing running through your head when you kind of had the realization or you were able to grasp that maybe your whole freshman year wouldn't be in person or a traditional freshman year per se?
A little disappointed, like anybody would be. Another part of it was making that decision of whether to be on campus or not. Ultimately, my family and I made a decision to send me up there because I felt like I'd be closer to resources and libraries. The ability to focus is really big. I'm in a pretty busy household, so being able to go to that library, study, really grind things out makes a difference. But in terms of a workload, I think it was about what college is going to be like. Maybe a little bit lighter, just in terms of the fact that I was taking earlier classes. But um, I had a pretty good go of it compared to how bad it could have been, or how bad I could have let it be, considering what we were going through. But it definitely went better than I would have expected it going.
Yeah, no. I guess one of the most difficult things that must be happening all over with a bunch of college campuses is just meeting, I know a big part about college is, you get to meet a bunch of really cool, unique individuals. Almost everyone has like an individual personality. What would you say were some things and some ways you've been able to meet people, and what are some things that you're really looking forward to when you could start to meet more people?
Yeah, so I work from Broward County, right? And then I moved to Broward dorm in UF, and ironically enough, just like the people here, Broward dorm happens to be one of the most social dorms in all of US, and so I really got to meet people just in passing. Um, Made a lot of friends, especially the people that I'm going to actually be living with next year in an apartment. I met just by being at my dorm and being in the hallways. They have a lounge. Obviously, not meeting too many people at once in that lounge, but having nicer, smaller gatherings. Obviously, socially distanced with masks and so on and so forth. But enough to be able to get to know people, uh, to really dive deeper into what's going on campus. But then, what I'm really excited for going forward would be being able to get more involved on campus with in-person groups and clubs. I think that's what I'm really excited for, because not only am I meeting people, but I'm meeting people with similar goals and trajectories as me. I'm meeting people interested in what I'm interested in, and I'm just overall excited for that. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I've always heard college is always like a really nice experience because you just said the word goals, and it's almost like everyone has the same goal, right? To graduate with either their bachelor's or they're going for something bigger. But how has that competition level been? Have you think it's like somewhat stressful, or do you think you kind of thrive because of it?
I think it's really refreshing. Um, when when you go from high school, obviously, you're learning a lot about yourself. Um, you're learning about what kind of effort you want to put in going forward, and that's not always matched. But the great thing about going to college is once you've found out that amount of effort that you want to put in, once you find out a little bit more about yourself in high school, you're surrounded then by like-minded people, and that judges a lot off of what you want to do, what these other people want to do. If peer pressure is at all an indication of where you end up and what you do, uh, they say surround yourself with people that you want
Yes.
to be.
Yeah, no, for sure. That definitely makes a lot of sense. I think there was just a little technical glitch, so I think that might have been on my end. But to roll with the episode, technical glitches and all, um, I know the social experience was different. Like when I think of UF, I think of SEC football, I think of the swamp. Traditional things other than education obviously come with the college experience. How would you say that can affect one's like mental psyche whenever you're like, do you think that's a big part of college, or do you think that's something that is definitely avoidable?
I would say I wanted it to be a big part of my college experience, but I know plenty of people that went to school um, not being very interested in SEC football or those types of extracurriculars, if you will, at school. Um, Even though it is very hard because being a UF Gator is a very contagious disease, if you will. You want to be so involved in this very exciting thing at all levels of UF athletics. So I would say I really wanted that to be a part of my experience. I wanted to be able to go to those games, but tickets were limited. You had to join a lottery, stuff like that. So enjoying the game with more intimate, smaller gatherings was definitely the best way to get around missing out on football entirely, but also still trying to be safe.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And when you entered UF, you really had an interesting perspective, being a partial owner of a mindfulness company. When would you kind of say you were able to use some of like the techniques that you kind of teach through your mindfulness company, and like how did that affect your college experience?
I'd say all the time. In terms of nights where I was having a hard time sleeping, just being able to meditate, calm myself, take control of my breathing, then learning to truly not procrastinate, being able to get everything done on time, time management. We've done an episode of that on this show. I got myself a calendar. I write everything down. I mean, it really gave me the opportunity to keep myself sane, keep myself going, remember that there are things to look forward to. Overall, just mindfulness was a huge part of me getting through this first semester.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And if you could somehow speak to yourself at the beginning of Jake Lynch first semester, what would you possibly say?
Um, you're gonna start strong and you're gonna finish strong, but don't ever don't cut yourself so much slack. I got good grades, but there was a moment where I was doing really well, and because I was doing really well, I let myself dip for a second and then got back on track, but caused myself a little bit of stress there by getting a little comfortable. But other than that, that's probably the only thing I tell.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's
working hard, kid.
yeah, I think that's very sound advice. Do you have any other pieces of advice for, say, a potential high school senior going into college next year, maybe like myself?
I'd say appreciate the fact that there's way more time than you're thinking of. You know, we tend to think in terms of milestones. You know, how many degrees am I going to get in this amount of years, rather than the fact that there's 4 years to be accounted for. That's so many moments to be able to cherish, and even when things get down at the very beginning or towards the middle or towards the end of those 4 years, you can't single in on those moments. You truly have to take it for a big picture and realize that you have all of this time. And though there will be mess ups, though there will be highs and lows and everything in between, you truly have to take it for and appreciate the fact that there is so much time for you to keep going and get better.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jake, and thank you, Fernando, for allowing me to fill in on this episode. I'm glad I was able to, especially because I know I just finished my college applications not too long ago, a few weeks ago. So excited to hear how everything goes with that. And, I'll be sure to keep you guys updated, of course. But yeah, I mean, we have a few other podcast series coming out. If you guys weren't able to catch last week's, we have a brand new one called the Monthly Check-In with Paige and Michael. A really good one. You guys should check it out. And then we, of course, have our regular other series, Align Your Mind, with myself, Jonathan, and Alexa. Of course, this is the Need to Heed podcast. And then we also have Mind Watch with Dan and Thomas.
So, as per usual, we just want to thank everybody for listening, and for you guys to remember that the details, the small details, make up the big picture with the Need to Heed podcast with Jake Lynch
and Jonathan Mungle.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.